Are you tired of feeling like you're working for somebody else's dream? Like your career is something that happens to you rather than something you actively shape? If you're feeling stuck or unfulfilled, this is the question we're going to tackle today. Are you renting your career or owning it? We're going to dive deep into what that looks like for somebody and how we can actually make some changes for the future. And if you're serious about wanting to take control of your professional life and or your portfolio career, then make sure to like and subscribe to this channel for more videos centered around these topics. If you don't know who I am already, my name is Michael Tabirade and I help professionals like you understand how they can better navigate the change that we see in the world so they can live a more flourishing life. Now, many of us feel like passengers at the moment, passengers that are merely working a 9 to 5 or maybe even contracting and feeling like it's not enough. And it's really demoralizing. It's at a point where people are saying, oh, we need to leave, or we need to start some crazy digital business, or we need to be more frugal with our finances. It's one of those three. But today I'm going to talk more about why this is happening and what we can do to move forward. Now, of course, I've always said this. If you feel like it's difficult for you to find a role or a job right now in this difficult market, well, the best thing you can do is make sure that you upgrade your CV. So if you feel like your CV requires an upgrade, then feel free to click on the link below to download my CV template that I personally use that's helped me get the contracts that I'm currently on right now. So click on the link below. Now the question becomes, why does the traditional career feel so, what's the word, frustrating? And that's because things have changed. Things have changed. Like, many of us are renting our identities and placing it into these organizations that are using us for their own economic growth. Again, a lot of economic growth is dependent upon the stakeholders, the executives, the people on the board, all these different individuals who determine the direction of where the business should be going. But ultimately, we're moving in a direction that doesn't make us necessarily feel fulfilled. Now, there's a stat that says that 22% of all the jobs out there right now are going to be replaced in some way, shape or form by 2030 plus, and at least 39% of the skills we currently have that are core to our jobs are going to be redundant. So there is a fundamental shift that is happening for sure. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not against full-time work, I'm not against 9 to 5 work. But in some instances, for many people, we are under this illusion that that is the only silver bullet, that is the only solution. Now, of course, if you're making savings and there's consistency and you're in a good work culture, different story. But for many of us, we're not in that space. And so this is why there are people who are side hustling or trying to do extra gigs to get their income, because the economy is changing so much. Now, even if you are getting paid handsomely, even if things are looking nice and neat for you, a paycheck is not enough. We as human beings require something more, and that more looks like meaning and purpose. I remember there was one time I was being taught how to become a coach, and essentially my trainer told me that there are 4 different drivers that push us. There is achievement, there's learning, there is joy, and there's meaning. And meaning is a big one, because if we have a purpose, okay, as they say, okay, a reason for being, then we're more likely going to give our all. This is just what happens. And so we are missing some element of deeper impact in our lives because we're focusing on just surviving and paying the bills. The truth is, the traditional advice of just stick with one job and that should be fine, it just doesn't work in this Bani or VUCA world, so to speak. It just doesn't. It is possible to, don't get me wrong, and it all comes down to circumstances. Maybe for you this works, but for some it's not enough. And you kind of have to make a choice. Do you want to stay in that world where actually you just buckle down and stay in that job, and actually you invest and save, and that's the caveat, you invest and save, and you're going to be, what's the word, more frugal with certain things, or just sensible and disciplined by nature? Then fair enough, because eventually you will win at some point. That's if you have the patience and the plan applied. If you're somebody who wants more, who wants to be able to experience wealth and riches a certain way, it doesn't even have to be crazy riches, but just something different, something more flexible, something more meaningful, then there is a bit more risk with that. And it requires you to have a different model that doesn't align to the traditional model that we've been told. Now, there is a hidden cost to staying stuck in a traditional career, and this won't be everyone's story, but on average, UK earners earn anywhere between £30,000 to £37,000. Now, if you are a portfolio careerist, somebody who basically chooses their career path, so to speak, on average, you make about 74k. So if we think about this, we're not talking just about entrepreneurs. We're not just talking about contractors or whatever it may be. You can still be a portfolio careerist if you are in a 9 to 5, but you are a non-executive director, or you're building a business on the side, or you have a side hustle, whatever it may be. It is someone who's doing more than just the one thing, maybe because they feel they have to, or maybe because they have a passion and interest in it. And that's what I'm trying to really excite people to do things that they have found an opportunity and or there is a passion for, provided there is a market for it. And so yeah, being a portfolio careerist means you make more money. So in essence, if you don't do anything, then you could be missing out on extra monies. Second thing to note is, look, we lose interest quite easily. I've always said, you're never ever gonna fully love your job. And again, there are some people who do. There are some people who do. That will always be the caveat. But if I'm talking about the majority of people I've come across, at least anyway, there's always something. They like it, it's good, but it's not the thing. It's not the thing. And that's what I'm talking to. If it doesn't feel like the thing, but you know what the thing may look like, then that's where there's going to be a void. That's where there's going to be a gap. And so fulfillment factor is something to bear in mind when it comes to just doing the traditional job, not having the opportunity to build something that you want to build, or be involved in something that you want to be involved in. It's not always about building. Sometimes you just need to slot yourself in a certain position. Sometimes you need a certain opportunity. So not exploring the portfolio career path can be detrimental to one's mental, psychological, and emotional health. And finally, there's this whole what if scenario. So what if I did this? What if I did that? I can't believe I didn't do this. Not allowing yourself to be the full version of yourself that you're called to be. And if you die, you'll never know that, unless obviously you believe in the afterlife and the spirit and all that kind of jazz there. I mean, why are we waiting for that? We had the opportunity to experience life now, so why not live it to its fullest? And so when we break this down, as you can see on the screen, I've been talking about stagnation, vulnerability, and unrealized potential. These three combined are the hidden cost of not taking action on pursuing a career path that makes sense for you. Now, of course, there is a different way of looking at things, because for every opposite, there is an opposite reaction, so to speak. And so we have to think about what opportunities actually exist that enable us to not feel like we are living in those hidden costs. Now, like I said before, the portfolio career is the one that you create rather than the one you pursue. And so when thinking about all of this stuff, there are various different facets to think about. So the first one is diversification. The fact that you have the ability to create income from various different streams enables you to get to that 74,000 figure. Now, of course, the stats state that 63% of workers are currently doing this right now, or at least plan to. And actually, in the last decade, there have been multiple people holding various different jobs or gigs. It's risen by at least 37%. And so with this in mind, there is a clear idea or movement towards this portfolio career path, whether people know of this term or not. People are doing it. Multifaceted, multi-hyphenated, you know, whatever it may be, multi-passionate. There are loads of different names for it, but it's all a portfolio that they're building. The other thing to note is that there is this whole idea of ownership. So I think the saying goes, jack of all trades and a master of none is often more favorable than a master of one. Something to that degree anyway. But we're not trying to be a jack of all trades. What we're trying to be is a master of integration. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to assimilate and integrate our lives in such a way where professionally makes sense. And this is why personal branding is such a big thing, because it is the integration of all the different facets of our lives that make sense in order for us to monetize those different aspects so that we can live a lifestyle business, so to speak, or lifestyle career, or whatever it may be. So full ownership is what we get with a portfolio career. So I think I spoke about ownership as well in terms of diversification and vice versa, etc., etc. And I guess the final thing I want to add to that is there's a sense of autonomy, there's a sense of freedom, there's a sense of flexibility that you get when you have a portfolio career. Yes, there are definitely going to be times where you're working crazy hard, and yes, there are going to be times where you may be stressed and it's intense and you may even burn out. But this is all with the aim to create a path that makes sense for you. That's all this is about. This is not about right and wrong, this is about alignment. What aligns with you? What aligns with your spirit? What aligns with your soul? What aligns with you as a person? And as you can see on the screen, which I'm looking at right now, I've explained all these different facets. If you ever want more information in terms of what a portfolio career is, then definitely check out my post, which talks more about this on my website. You can just type in portfolio careers in the search box. So the question really becomes, how do you build a portfolio career? And I'm going to break it down very simply just with this slide, okay? So the first thing, you have to understand your skills. You have to understand your skill set. You have to understand your experiences. You have to understand what's out there in the market, and you have to understand what your market is saying and how you align that into your positioning, into your marketing skills, into your branding. That's essentially what you're doing. So the liaison of all four of those different things is what gives you the understanding and data to know what to do moving forward. So this is your foundational stuff. You're assessing yourself to get a diagnosis and data to then move forward into reach. So once you understand that stuff, your experiences, your skills, your all of those expertise and everything else, and you've aligned it with market, you've aligned it with the problems that you can solve, you've aligned it with things that you're good at, you've aligned it with what the market is actually saying because you've gone out there and spoken to people or checked Reddit or whatever it may be, and you've understood, you've developed some sort of strategic approach in terms of how to market yourself and position yourself, whether this is personal brand, etc. You move into reach, and this is where you start to skill stack. This is where you start to reach opportunities. So the first thing you need to do is combine that information in such a way where you can start reaching out to people. Are you looking at marketplaces? Are you getting referrals? Are you doing cold outreach? Are you doing social media marketing? It's building that brand. You have to build a solid brand. Every single social media that you have has to be filled up to the brim when it comes to your bio, when it comes to the image, when it comes to the graphics. What is the sort of image and feel and color scheme and vibe that you're trying to give people? What is it that you're trying to do? Get Gemini or ChatGPT, speak to it, let it be your brand ambassador, not some sort of like fake nonsense, but something that's real. Speak to your family members, whether this is your siblings, your mother, your father, your grandparents, your friends, your cousins, your uncles, your aunts, your colleagues, whoever it may be, who you feel gets a good grasp of who you are, and get them to coach you through it. Not being an actual coach, but ask them good, insightful questions, because what we're trying to do, we're trying to get to a point where we are really using the Socratic method, okay? This is good reasoning questions. Look it up if you don't understand it. Or we're trying to find ways to, I've forgotten what it's called, but it's basically following what is in front of you and then answering the next question based on the data that you get. This is what we're doing. We're thinking in that way. And so you want to reach out to these things. Yes, you may be at a point where you try everything, or maybe you're at a point where you try one thing at a time and then you see your results after, let's say for example, 3 months, etc. But this is what we want to be doing. We also want to be learning. Are there new things that we need to learn? Okay. Are there things that we need to learn in terms of presentation skills, public speaking skills, when it comes to AI automation, when it comes to the domain knowledge that you have right now? Are there any professional qualifications that you can get at work and or you can pay for? Do you need to just do a quick thing? Do people care about prestige and, you know, certain honors or bachelors or vocational studies in your industry? Do they care about it or don't they care about it? How do you know? You ask the market. That's what you do. You seek the opinion of others. And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to get into a space of truly understand, because without the understanding you can't reach. Reaching is not going to happen. And so once you're within that space, then every time you're doing something, you're taking notes, you're tracking down things, you're allowing yourself to not take for granted your situation. I'll give you an example. What I do is every single week, I try to at least anyway, is I track and write down what I do in my contracts. I do this for 2 reasons. I do this because number one, it's great for the economic buyer and or my client to know exactly what I'm doing. And this helps with, you know, getting invoices paid, etc. But 2, it allows me to understand what I've been doing, and then I can throw that stuff into AI and basically be like, what does this tell you? What does this tell you about me? What skills have I been developing over the years, etc, or weeks or months, however long it's been within that contract. This is how you do this self-audit, and this is how you can start turning this stuff into quicker proposals, better CVs, better understanding of what sort of things you're looking for, etc. So that's what you do. And finally, you expand. So you start thinking about, who can I diversify with? Who can I speak to? What different networks and events can I go to? Who can introduce me to different people? What opportunities are out there in the market? You start to study the market much more, and you see how you can slot yourself within those spaces. That's how you understand, reach, and expand. And that framework that I came up with when I was 14 or 15 because I was upset Live, Laugh, Love was taken is universal. Is universal for anything that you want to study and master. Understand, reach, and expand. The final thing I want to say with the expand element is you want to diversify your income streams as best as possible, but really have a core set of things that make you money, and then use that to grow things and also learn things, so that the things that you're learning go into the grow bucket and the things that you're growing go into the core bucket. That's how it works, at least for me anyway. And again, I don't need to talk about my story too much if you've watched my YouTube channels before, but essentially I started contracting consulting back in 2021, I want to say. Yes, it was 2021. And essentially it was because I was so fed up with the system that I was in. I was so fed up with the way things were done, toxic leadership, the control element, etc, etc. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying I will never go back to a 9-to-5. I might do that. Strategically, it may make sense for my personal brand and what I'm trying to do. Outside of that, I'm not on it. It's that simple. This will be my portion until something changes and actually I can't do it no more for whatever reason. And so understanding this means that I have created a set of values that make sense for me. And this is why having a portfolio career makes sense, because you are living by your code and you don't feel forced to do things that are unnecessary. There is always going to be hard work. There's always going to be 1-2 things here and there, but really and truly, you're broadly living life on your own terms. And so this is where you have to be clear, controlled, confident, and impactful when it comes to building your portfolio career. Of course, if you've liked what I've had to say and you feel like actually my CV needs some spicing up, then feel free to click on the link below so you can download the CV template that I use when it comes to finding new contracts and/or jobs as well. And in my next video, I'm going to be talking about what IR35 means for you, and actually how that links in with AI and all this other stuff too. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and TikTok and Instagram. And obviously, if you haven't done so already, make sure to like and subscribe to this video if you want to see more things centered around portfolio careers, consulting, contracting, and anything that is aimed to enrich your life. As always, my friends, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.